First officer involved shooting I'm going to present to you today occurred on December 23rd, 2019 at 308 Pennsylvania Street Northeast. To give you an overview of where this occurred, we have Pennsylvania that runs north and south. It occurred right here on the east side of the street between Copper and Chico. On December 23rd, 2018, at approximately 18:55 hours, that's 6:55 p.m., Officer Elliot Padilla observed a white stolen Hyundai Sonata traveling north on Pennsylvania. He observed this Sonata subsequent to clearing a previous call that he was addressing at Pennsylvania and Central. The male driver of the white Hyundai pulled into a parking lot prior to Officer Padilla engaging his emergency equipment, and he pulled into a parking lot located at 308 Pennsylvania Street Northeast, at which time a female passenger who was in the white Hyundai Sonata exited the front passenger seat. Officer Padilla called for assistance to conduct a felony stop and pulled behind the Hyundai. Several officers arrived to assist Officer Padilla in this felony stop. Those officers were identified as Officer Bryce Wilsey, Officer Garrett Maxon, Officer Christopher Duda, Officer Jordan Trujillo, Officer Martin Pino, Officer Nathaniel Carter, and Acting Sergeant Robert Sanchez. All those officers assisted on this traffic stop. Officers established a force array to include lethal and less lethal options. The rear passenger of the Hyundai was rolled down a few inches, and Officer Padilla gave numerous commands in both English and Spanish to the male to exit the vehicle with his hands up. Reason for giving these commands in both English and Spanish is because the male was non-compliant with any commands that we were giving him, so there was concern that maybe he could not understand us. So our officers did everything that they possibly could to communicate to the subject exactly what they wanted him to do. The male refused to comply with the officer's commands, and officers described the male as reaching down and moving his hands towards the passenger side of his vehicle during their interaction. After refusing to comply with officers' commands, the male fired a gunshot through the passenger door in the direction of officers. The officers acknowledged hearing a gunshot, but were not quite sure the male had fired at them. The officers communicated with each other and ensured it was not an officer that had discharged their firearm. An officer on scene discharged two 40mm less lethal projectiles towards the rear passenger window in an attempt to create an opening to see what the male was doing and to ensure clear communication for his surrender. The male refused to cooperate. The male fired another shot out of the rear passenger window towards officers. The male then exited the driver's side door with a shotgun in his hands. Officers stated they observed the male raise the shotgun in their direction and they discharged their firearms at this time. The individual who shot at officers was identified as Jason Scott Perez. His age is 35. The criminal charges that we had on this particular incident were he had a probation violation warrant, that would be a felony warrant, a domestic violence warrant, receiving and transferring a stolen motor vehicle, aggravated assault on police officers. He was driving on a revoked driver's license, and he was also a felon in possession of a firearm. He has a lengthy criminal history dating back to the year 2000. The vast majority of his history is in Raton, New Mexico, as well as Springfield, Missouri. His criminal history ranges from armed robbery, felony domestic violence, aggravated assault and battery, numerous probation violations, embezzlement, and another felon in possession charge. The officers involved in this incident is Officer Elliot Padilla. He's been with APD since January of 2016, and he has no prior officer-involved shootings. Next officer involved is Officer Robert Sanchez. He's been employed with APD since August of 2015 and also has no previous officer-involved shootings. Next officer is Officer Bryce Wilsey. He's been with APD since August of 2015, and he has one prior officer-involved shooting that occurred in January of 2018. Next officer involved is Christopher Duda. He was hired in November of 2015, and he has one previous officer-involved shooting that occurred back in November of 2018. Next officer involved is Jordan Trujillo. He's been with APD since December of 2015, and he has no previous officer-involved shootings. What you're about to see is a video from Officer Nathaniel Carter. He was assisting on the felony traffic stop. This is the best vantage point that we could give you in terms of what you're seeing and what you're hearing. So we're going to go ahead and play that video in its entirety. You guys should be start hearing sound here probably in about 20 seconds.
So when he starts stepping out,
So that would be the first shot that the individual fired outside of his, from the inside of his car through his door.
hey, show me your hand! Go 40 out! Show me your hand! Show me that window!
So we have an officer, Wilsey, who's stepping up with the 40 millimeter projectile, who fired his 40 millimeter at the window.
Hey, show me your hand!
That's the second shot that the individual fired at officers out the passenger window. Okay, go and cut it.
Everybody slow down, slow down.
Move! You got the gun right behind you. Okay, okay, guys, hold on. Sir, please. Hey, do not. Hold on. Hold on. Do not. You see? Hold on. You hold on. You do. Hey, you're gonna. Hey, man, you're gonna get fucking shot.
Okay. I apologize. I said we'd show that video to you in its entirety. I forgot that the video is 25 minutes long. We're going to show you another video from another vantage point. This is from a surveillance camera that was posted up on the apartment complex that's located at 308 Pennsylvania Street Northeast. I want you to direct your attention to, obviously, the white vehicle. That's the vehicle in question. But when we show you this video, you're going to see two flashes come from inside the vehicle. Those are muzzle flashes from the shotgun. One of the flashes is from the first shot that he fires outside the door, and then a short time after that is a second muzzle flash that you'll see that when he fires his second shot outside the passenger window. Shortly after that, you'll see him exit the vehicle. There's a first muzzle flash. And then you'll see a poof of smoke coming out the passenger side of the window, the rear passenger side. That's the second gunshot. There's a second one. Next thing we're going to show you is just a few photographs from the actual crime scene here. One thing I want you to pay attention to is this is the vehicle that we were dealing with at the time. The individual stepped out here. Lying right here is the shotgun that he had in hand. When officers approached, they separated the shotgun from him for officer safety reasons, and then they started giving life-saving measures to him once they coordinated a safe approach to actually get to Mr. Pettis. There's a picture of the gun that he had. This is a pump shotgun, a 12-gauge pump shotgun. The shotgun had, he fired 2 rounds at us. It had 3 rounds in the magazine, and then he had a full ammunition sock, what we refer to as a sock. So this is the vehicle that he was in. This passenger window, this is a passenger window that was slightly cracked, but then when he fired his second shot, it blew out the rest of the window. You'll notice a defect here in the passenger side door, and you'll see a splaying of sheet metal that's coming outbound, and that's an indicator of somebody who shot from inside of the vehicle. There's a picture of the ammunition that he had with him. Second officer involved shooting that I'm going to present to you today occurred on December 24th, 2018 at 3400 Prospect Northeast. Here's an overview of where the incident occurred. This is the Motel 6 where the incident occurred. As you can see, this is not the exact, this picture wasn't taken on December 24th, but this occurred at around 11 o'clock in the morning. It was a highly populated area. We have other hotels here. We have the Rudy's here. We have the Mexico State Police Station right here. And then we have businesses all around the area. So it was highly populated at the time. It was Christmas Eve, and it was, like I said, about 11 o'clock in the morning. Officers were dispatched to multiple shots fired at 3400 Prospect Northeast. As I mentioned earlier, this is a Motel 6. Officers advised that a male is actively shooting into motel rooms and is walking around with a rifle. Officers arrive and take up a position on Wellesley Street, which is just north of Prospect. And additionally, officers arrive at and are advised to take a position on Prospect west of Carlisle Boulevard. During this time, New Mexico State Police also arrived on scene to assist us. One New Mexico State Police sergeant. As this was occurring, officers can hear intermittent gunfire coming from the hotel, but they were having difficulty identifying exactly where in the motel the gunfire was coming from. Officers on the east side of the motel observed the male on a second story they observe a male on the second story point a rifle at officers who were posted on the northwest side of the motel. So officers fire at the male at this time. Civilian witnesses provided information that they observed the male point and aim the rifle and fire his rifle at officers that were on scene. The male was struck and fell to the ground. Officers approached the male and rendered aid. The male was transported to the hospital where he later succumbed to his injuries. Interviews were later conducted by detectives which revealed that the male fired his rifle at 2 other individuals at the motel. However, those individuals were not injured. Interviews with hotel employees revealed that the male had been notified that he had an outstanding payment due to that Motel 6, and if he was not going to pay it, then he was going to be evicted that day and asked to leave the property. Individuals also observed the armed male attempt to get into the property front office, the front door right there. However, the door was locked. He was armed at the time he was trying to get into this office. I had mentioned I'd kind of give you guys directionals and street names and things like that, so I just kind of wanted to give you a better idea, or we wanted to give you a better idea of how it played out. So the male, this is the Motel 6. The male was located on the second floor, about right here. We have officers that are posted here, and we have officers that are posted here. The witness accounts and officer accounts state that the male had pointed, aimed, and fired his rifle at these officers right here, which caused these officers to engage the subject. This is somewhat of a perspective photo of the officer's position when they fired. So we had officers that were actually standing, here's the vehicle, we had officers that were actually standing behind the vehicle, using the vehicle for cover, and the individual was walking around on the second floor about right here. We had officers that were posted right over here, and that's when he pointed the firearm at these officers, and these officers responded. This is just a diagram, it's not to scale. It's basically just a drawing of what I've shown you, but maybe an overhead view. So we have these officers here that ended up engaging the male from about approximately 109 yards. They shot with their rifles. The male was here, and the other officers were posted right here. The offender was identified as Abdias Usdiel Flores Corrado. He's 35 years old and has affiliation with the Westside Locos gang, as well as New Mexico Syndicate, which is a prison gang. So he has a lengthy criminal history dating back to 2002. All of these charges right here encompass aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault on a household member, kidnapping. He has numerous narcotics-related crimes, property-related crimes to include burglary and a stolen vehicle, intimidation of a witness charges, felon in possession of firearm, shooting from a motor vehicle, as well as child abuse. The officers involved in this incident was Officer Greg Toya. He's been with APD since October of 2009, and he has no previous officer-involved shootings. The next officer involved is Anna Lujan. She's been with APD since January of 2018, and she has no other officer-involved shootings. Next officer involved is Officer John Hill. He's been with APD since April of 2012, and he has no prior officer-involved shootings. The New Mexico State police officer who assisted us was Sergeant Jeremy Vaughn. He's been with the state police since December of 2002. He has a prior officer-involved shooting back in March of 2018, and as I had mentioned earlier, he's assigned to New Mexico State Police. We're about to show you a video of Officer Greg Toya. He is one of the officers who shot. This is the best video that we could provide you at this time, just to kind of give you a better idea of what happened and show you what I just explained. First several minutes of the video are just officers trying to assess what they have, trying to coordinate a response, trying to make the situation as safe as they possibly can in terms of not putting themselves in a crossfire situation, things like that. So we're going to go ahead. You'll be provided with all these videos after this. We're going to skip to about 1 minute and 30 seconds into the video and show you about a minute of that footage.
He's pointing at something. He's on the. He's still up. He's still got the gun. Drop the gun. He's still up. He's still up. I don't see his weapon. I can't see his hands. He's still moving. I can't see his hands. I can't see his hands.
So you can hear Officer Toya say he's pointing at something, and then you hear gunfire come on after that. This is right here is a photo of some of the ammunition that Mr. Corrado had. He was carrying a .22 long rifle at that point. This is some of the ammunition that he had on him that had been unspent, and then there are spent casings that are going to be around the crime scene. So this is, I believe, the office that he was trying to get into that I alluded to earlier. These are spent casings as well as just rounds that are around the area right there. Some other spent casings and loose rounds that had not been spent that are dropped in the area. That's an image of the rifle that he was armed with at the time when he pointed it at officers. Then this is a picture of his room, and there's a gunshot in the mirror. Like the call stated, he was in hotel rooms and he was shooting inside hotel rooms. So there's a room that is directly adjacent to his hotel room, and these are the 2 gunshots that went from his room into the neighboring room. Do you have any questions?